Oh my God! The SWAT team came, we ran, and we just ran.
Terrifying, horrific. I'm just glad that she's safe.
I'm telling everybody there's a shooting, like, let's go.
Horrific, homicidal, detestable act.
We're just, like, praying and crying.
Right now at 11, tragedy and chaos at a South Florida high school. A gunman opens fire just as students were getting ready to leave for the day, killing 17 people, including a coach. Good evening. I'm Felicia Rodriguez.
And I'm Tiffany Kenny. Thank you for joining us tonight. The gunman is in custody. Investigators say 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz, a former student who had been expelled, pulled a fire alarm at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, and just moments later he started firing those fatal gunshots as students and staff rushed into the hallway to evacuate the school. Students ran for cover, hiding in classrooms, closets. The school immediately went into lockdown as investigators searched for the gunman.
Deputies arrested Nicholas Cruz a short time later. We have live team coverage tonight. We begin with co-anchor Todd McDermott live for us in Parkland. Todd?
Felicia, Tiffany, it is quiet here around the campus of Stoneman Douglas High School here in Parkland, Florida tonight. Most of the law enforcement is gone. Some are guarding the premises here. School is closed tomorrow. And tonight and in the days ahead, you will hear the words tragedy. You will hear evil, unthinkable. You'll hear condolences and prayers. But none of them will sum up or change what's happened here. 17 deaths, 5 more people tonight in grave danger of losing their lives at Broward County hospitals following surgery, some of the wounded. And police say this took just 5 minutes. The whole attack took 5 minutes. They say that's the length of time. Deputies say it took Nicholas Cruz to walk into the school, pull the fire alarm, carrying that AR-15 rifle, and then started shooting children, students, and teachers as they were pouring out of the classrooms, even as some went back into the classrooms to seek cover. And he has torn apart, according to police, any sense of security or safety for not only those 17 families, but the thousands of families with a connection to this high school. Now, this all started about 2:30 this afternoon, as we've heard, with the sounding of that fire alarm. Investigators say 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz pulled it himself. We've heard reports he was in a gas mask. He also might have had smoke grenades with him, along with the rifle. He started firing as soon as students started filing out of their classrooms in the 3-floor freshman building. A dozen people died inside, students and we believe teachers as well. 3 more were killed outside, 1 in the street. The rest died in hospitals. The Broward County Sheriff's Office responded to reports of shots fired at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland immediately. They were here in minutes. The shooting was happening just as students were getting ready to leave for the day. Cruz managed to slip away with the hundreds of other students fleeing the campus. A year ago, he was here. He went to the school before he was expelled. But just after 4 o'clock, the Broward County Sheriff's Office tweeted that 2 deputies had captured the suspect without incident. Around 6:15, the Broward County Sheriff confirmed that 17 people had died. Again, that's a mix of students and adults. We are still waiting for more information on that. A half hour later, trauma doctors with Broward Health North announced local hospitals received a total of 17 patients. Among the patients they received was the man who they believe is responsible for the shooting. Nicholas Cruz was brought into a hospital for some kind of treatment after he was arrested. He left quickly. He was taken quickly in a hospital gown to be transferred to the Broward County Jail. A short time ago, Governor Rick Scott arrived in Broward to meet with law enforcement. He called this mass shooting, quote, pure evil.
I can't imagine what the families that are sitting there wondering if they've lost a family member. They don't know yet. Those that do know they've lost a family member, I just can't imagine how their lives have been changed. Like all of us, we'll be praying for each of those. Everybody in the hospital, I pray for their full recovery. All the individuals that unfortunately had to go through this experience, I know that there's going to be grief counselors, and I'm sure it's going to be very, very difficult as they think through what happened.
Again, there is no school here the rest of the week at the high school. The governor also announcing that flags to be flown at half staff in memory of the victims. Attorney General Pam Bondi says the state will pay the funeral expenses for those who were killed. You heard talk of grief counselors. There will also be grief counselors available for students at many of the other schools. Remember, there are 2 middle schools also in the vicinity here, also on lockdown. I talked to one of those students. He said that his middle school is a 1-minute walk here from Stoneman Douglas High School. Again, the grief counselors will be here when school resumes as well. We would assume that those students will also get grief counseling immediately. Here's what we've learned tonight about that 19-year-old man now in custody. Investigators say Nicholas Cruz was expelled for having bullet casings in a backpack. First, he was told not to bring the backpack to school anymore. Then he was kicked out of school completely after getting into a fight with another student. He would also apparently talk about shooting rats with an air gun or BB gun. Cruz's cousin says the 19-year-old also had recently lost his only remaining parent, his adoptive mother. She died from the flu, according to that cousin, last November. His adopted father died 13 years ago of a heart attack. Nicholas Cruz, of course, would have been just 6 years old at the time. Well, tonight we're also hearing and seeing those emotional stories of parents reunited for their children. For hours, it seemed, parents could not reach their children. This school was on lockdown, middle schools were on lockdown, and what followed was reunions when families were sent to a local hotel down the street and the student are transferred out of the high school by bus to meet with their parents at the Marriott. Ted White has that part of this very emotional story.
The chaos on campus, the confusion.
What happened was we stepped outside, like 4 students stepped outside. We heard 3 gunshots and we all ran inside.
And I'm telling everybody there's a shooting, like, let's go. So I ran. My teacher's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm just going out the gate.
Minutes after the mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, parents rushed to this intersection near the campus, trying to reach their children, trying to remain calm, trying to make sure their loved ones were out of harm's way. The wait to hear any news, tense, agonizingly long.
My daughter was the closest to the incident, and she texted me the second it happened, and I've been out here since. And there was a period of time where she could not text. They told them to silence their phones, no texting, because the shooter was still at large. And that 20 minutes to half an hour was just death.
Then came the reunions between parents and their children. It would be sporadic for hours.
We saw so many police with their guns out, and they were helping kids out that were bloody from head to toe.
So I just saw a lot of bloody people, and I'm just glad that I got out in time.
Terrifying, horrific. I'm just glad that she's safe. You hear these things, you see these things all the time, but you never think it'll be so close to home.
This parent says she's had enough.
What is it going to take to make a change in this country? If they didn't do it for the 4- and 5-year-olds, and they're not doing it for our 14- and 15-year-olds, who are they going to make this change for?
Help came in many forms today. Paramedics, law enforcement, you name it. Many of them do not work together every day, but they did during this tragedy. In Parkland, Ted White, Wpbf 25 News.
Our thanks to Ted White. We have breaking news now in Lantana, where the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department is aiding the Broward County Sheriff's Department in some type of operation. Jimmy Johnson is there live. Jimmy, what do we know so far about what's happening tonight?
Yeah, Ted, right now we're outside of the Lantana Cascade Mobile Home Park. Take a look right behind me. This is off of Congress Avenue and Lake Cascade Boulevard. Now inside, as you mentioned, the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office is assisting the Broward County Sheriff's Office with some sort of investigation. Now within the last hour, a PBSO mobile command unit arrived on scene. Inside, at least a dozen marked and unmarked units are lined up around a pond in the community. Now investigators are questioning a man and a woman with a little kid. Also, a detective could be seen searching a vehicle. Now, while on the property, law enforcement did ask me to identify myself. I told them who I was, and then they promptly asked me to leave. Now, I put in several calls to the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office to see if this scene is connected to the deadly shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, but have not heard back at this time. However, I should mention there are several media outlets along with myself here trying to connect the dots here. But once again, at this point, we have not confirmed if this is related to that deadly shooting down in Broward. Back to you, Todd.
All right, thank you very much, Jimmy. Now, police initially also took the suspect to Broward North. We mentioned that earlier. The reason is unknown. We do know that he left in a squad car, not an ambulance, in a hospital gown. Ari Height was at that hospital. 8 patients are at that hospital. And Governor Rick Scott is at that hospital as well to meet with some of the families. Ari joins us live now from Broward Medical North. Ari?
Governor Scott met with some of the families, also met with some of the staff here at the hospital. Like you mentioned, 8 patients brought here. 2 of them passed away once they got here tonight. 3 of them are in critical condition. 3 others are in stable condition. When Governor Scott spoke to the families, he told me afterwards that the families are praying for their own children, but also praying for the other victims as well. A large police escort followed Nicholas Cruz as he was brought to Broward Health North after his arrest. It's the same hospital that was already treating 8 victims from the school shooting.
Of the 8 patients that we had, not including the suspect, 2 mortalities, 3 in critical condition, 3 stable.
The 9th patient was Nicholas Cruz. Doctors declined to say why he came to the hospital. The sheriff, though, says it was nothing major. In fact, when Cruz was first arrested, he was placed in the back of a police cruiser. But shortly after, he was taken out, put on a stretcher, and loaded into an ambulance. Doctors say they treated him, never once thinking about what he's accused of doing.
Every patient that comes in gets treated as a patient, and we take care of them medically, and that's what we do.
Doctors say, like law enforcement, they train for this type of situation. Even with that many shooting victims, they say there was no chaos here. They described it as, quote, calm, collected care.
Fortunately for everybody, we were located very close to the high school where this shooting happened. So fortunately for everybody, they brought these patients to our hospital, and we were able to do a great job to do the right thing.
After about an hour inside, Nicholas Cruz left the ER in a wheelchair. He did not go to an ambulance, though. He was placed in the back of a police cruiser and taken away. Around 9:30, Governor Rick Scott stopped by the hospital to talk to staff here and to talk to the families of the victims.
They're worried about, others that, because we don't know the names, have not been released, who's been lost, and so, they're worried about that.
And Governor Scott said before he left, he made sure all the family members knew how to contact him. He said as governor, he would do whatever he could to help them. Todd, back to you.
All right, Ari, thank you very much. Ari was here all day, as was Ted here in Broward County, this Parkland area. It is an idyllic place. It is a place where families come because of the amenities, the beautiful neighborhoods. It is a beautiful campus to this high school as well. No school is safe from this type of shooting. Again, we've had 13 school shootings in the last year. Later on in this broadcast, we'll go over the shootings that have happened in 2018 alone. You won't believe the number. We'll have much more on the investigation itself. For now, I'll send it back to Felicia and Tiffany in the studio. I'll be back in just a few minutes.
All right, Todd, thank you. And we now have cell phone video showing the arrest of the suspect.
The man who shot it actually attended Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, and his sons attend the school across the street. You can see police in this video surrounding and handcuffing the suspect. Mike Quaranta says his children are okay. He describes what he saw.
I turned into my neighborhood and I see a lot of flashing lights, and there was one police officer standing over the victim. And then the other officer, the second gentleman, came running across the street and jumped right on top of the victim and put him in handcuffs.
Well, that victim he's referring to is actually the suspect. Quaranta says his kids will likely attend that high school where so much bloodshed occurred. In the days ahead, he plans to become more involved trying to prevent senseless acts like this from happening again. President Donald Trump sent his condolences to the people involved in today's shooting.
The president tweeted, quote, "My prayers and condolences to the families of the victims of the terrible Florida shooting. No child, teacher, or anyone else should ever feel unsafe in an American school."
Florida Democratic Senator Bill Nelson also responded to the shooting today from the nation's capital. He says the next step in the investigation is to look into how the shooter got the gun.
What was the caliber weapon? Was it legal? How was it purchased? Was the shooter eligible to purchase it? All of those things come later on down the line. But right now, if you pray, say a little prayer for all the folks in Broward County.
Republican Senator Marco Rubio tweeted, "A mass shooting at one of Florida's schools is a day you pray will never come. Jeanette and I are devastated and saddened by today's inexplicable tragedy at Broward County's Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. We join millions of Americans in praying for the victims, their families, and all the students and teachers impacted by today's events. We are grateful to the emergency responders, law enforcement officials, nurses, and doctors who assisted the victims of today's tragedy." And we will have much more continuing coverage of today's shooting coming up in just a few minutes.
And continued updates on this ongoing breaking news. We're going to take a quick break. You're watching WPBF 25 News.
As tragedy unfolded at a South Florida school,
17 people were killed.
WPBF 25 News alerted you first, bringing you every development.
Students who have barricaded themselves into closets.
You can only imagine the panic.
These pictures take your breath away.
It's all children that were bloodied from head to toe.
A suspect in custody.
We never expected to happen right here.
Whenever, wherever, live local late-breaking news happens, WPBF 25 News is there.
Everyone's talking about Kimmel. They said he's the most important host in late night. Really? They said he's late night's clearest voice.
They said I was extremely well endowed. Oh, no one said that?
Jimmy Kimmel Live, weeknights on ABC.
I was born during the winter of '77. I first met James in 5th grade. We got married after college and had twin boys. But then, one night, a truck didn't stop. But thanks to our Forester, neither did our story. And that's why we'll always drive a Subaru.
Hi, I want you to pick a new truck for your mom or dad, knowing that they could possibly pass it down to you one day.
Cool.
But you should know that Chevy Silverados are the most dependable, longest-lasting, full-size pickups on the road, which means that Ford F-150s are not. Which truck would you pick?
Chevy. The Chevy? Chevy.
Get 0% financing for 72 months on this 2018 Silverado All-Star, or a total value of over $9,600 when you finance with GM Financial. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
This will be the most important genome decoding breakthrough in history.
Mom, what's for dinner?
Boston Market has you covered. Just order online or through the app and skip the line. Boston Market. Dinner is always ready.
Now through Monday, President's Day specials on your favorite Volkswagen models. Right now, get your choice of a new Jetta or Tiguan. Just $139 a month. $139. $139 a month during the Volkswagen President's Day event. And every new 2018 Volkswagen includes America's best bumper-to-bumper warranty. Don't miss President's Day savings. For more specials, shop VWFlorida.com.
I'm Tyler McDermott. We're live in Parkland, Florida at Stoneman Douglas High School. Continuing to follow our breaking news. 17 people killed today in the high school when a gunman opened fire with an AR-15. I want to remind you tonight that we have information that 5 more patients right now, people who were wounded by the gunman, are in grave danger. We will monitor that through the night. And they could use your prayers tonight as well. This happened about 2:30 this afternoon at this school, just off the Sawgrass Expressway. Governor Rick Scott, along with the Attorney General Pam Bondi, the Broward County Sheriff, the school superintendent, all have given updates within the last 2 hours on the situation. I want to bring you up to speed on what we know. This is the latest information. We now know deputies have identified 12 of the 17 victims, again, those who perished today. They are not releasing any of the names at this time, but they have identified 12 of the 17. They have the names, and that is a mix of students and perhaps teachers. We know many of the victims are students. At least one was a coach here at the high school. Governor Rick Scott says he can't imagine what's going through the minds of the victims and their families.
I can't imagine what the families that are sitting there wondering if they've lost a family member. They don't know yet. Those that do know they've lost a family member, I just can't imagine how their lives have been changed. Like all of us, we'll be praying for each of those. Everybody in the hospital, I pray for their full recovery. All the individuals that unfortunately had to go through this experience, I know that there's going to be grief counselors, and I'm sure it's going to be very, very difficult as they think through what happened.
It will be difficult. The suspect identified as 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz. He is a former student at this school. He was expelled last year. District officials have now canceled classes at Stoneman Douglas High School for the rest of the week here in Parkland. Flags at half-staff across the state tomorrow in memory of the 17 victims. Governor Scott just left one of the hospitals after speaking with some of the wounded and their families tonight. He's expected to meet with some of the other survivors and their families as well. The FBI was the lead agency soon after this started. There were other federal agencies as well as half a dozen law enforcement agencies from South Florida. Special agents are tracing the suspect's digital footprint on social media, trying to figure out who knew what and when.
That's the first priority of the FBI, to secure the evidence and collect the evidence, and then obviously analyze it for whatever value it may have. But there's also the component of really trying to peel back the layers of this person's life to see who he's been in touch with, who he's been communicating with, what he's posted.
Now, as you might imagine, the federal agents are looking for any connections, perhaps to terrorism or conspiracy. Tonight, we've learned that Broward County Sheriff's Office is now the lead investigative team on this. They will handle this. Although the FBI did process this scene today, they will still assist in the investigation. There have been 18 school shootings in the first 45 days of this year. First 45 days of 2018. The advocacy group Everytown for Gun Safety compiled the list. The group labels an incident, a school shooting, anytime a gun is fired on a campus or within a school building, even if it was accidentally or intentionally fired. They also consider it a school shooting even if no one is hit or harmed by a bullet when a gun goes off in or around a school. Here's a look at just a handful of the shootings that have happened this year. In 8 of the school shootings, a gun was fired, but no one was hurt. And again, 13 fatal shootings in the last year. This trend does not stop in this country. Former Arizona Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, a shooting victim herself, is calling on lawmakers to re-examine gun violence and gun control in this country. That call being made yet again. She issued a statement saying, quote, "If I could offer protection to the 315 Americans who are shot every day, I would. But we can't wall ourselves from the threat of gun violence, nor will we find safety in the deadly cycle of arming ourselves against each other." Gabby Giffords was shot in the head outside a grocery store during a public appearance while she was a congresswoman. That was 7 years ago, and she survived. She since then has pushed for stricter gun control throughout this country. We have much more coming your way on this story here from Parkland, Florida, the deadly shooting of 17 people inside the high school behind me. More of that in just a moment. Let's go to Mike Lyons for a check of your forecast tonight. Mike?
All right, Todd, thank you. The warm weather pattern continues. High temp today was 82, morning low 72, and really no significant change for Thursday, Friday, or the weekend. Right now, current temperatures quite warm, 74 in West Palm, 63 in Stewart, and 67 degrees the current temperature in Port St. Lucie. Moisture, however, is high. The winds are light. So again, tomorrow, some thick fog. We've had dense fog advisories every day this week. I think we'll see it again tomorrow morning, in particular for the Treasure Coast. The darker shades indicates the thicker fog, so that'll be an issue across these locations as we head toward Thursday, but then it burns off, and again, the heat comes back. Again, overnight lows warm. Not as warm as we've seen this last couple of days, but still above average. Should be at 59, running at about 10 degrees above the norm. In Palm Beach County, the daytime highs tomorrow, quite warm. Low 80s across Delray and Boca Raton. About the same at the Gardens, 80 in Port St. Lucie, and 82, the forecast high around Lake Okeechobee. So again tonight, some patchy fog, primarily for the Treasure Coast and Lake Okeechobee, inland areas of Palm Beach County. Very warm by February standards, a temperature of 67. For Thursday, sunny, warm, and humid. High temperature right around 82 degrees. Your boating forecast. looking pretty good. Seas 2 to 3 feet. Inland waters a light chop. And the first alert, 7-day forecast. South Florida's most accurate, certified most accurate forecast for the rest of the week in the mid-range of the 80s. Overnight lows in the mid-60s. As we head toward the President's Day weekend, maybe a stray shower. But again, the overall pattern, warm and mostly dry. And that's your weather.
Mike, thank you. We're following some breaking news out of Boca Raton. Police are now investigating a Bright Line train hitting a car. It happened in the area of Dixie Highway and Camino Real. It's believed that a vehicle was stopped for a red light on the tracks. The gates went down and the elderly driver was unable to get out of the car before it was struck by the train. He was transported to the hospital. Brightline released a statement saying it appreciates the emergency personnel who responded to the scene immediately, and from its reports, the gates were functioning properly.
New video from state troopers shows the desperate attempt to stop an out-of-control car on I-95 on the Treasure Coast.
The driver says the gas pedal was stuck to the floor and he couldn't stop the car. Whitney Burbank has more of the heart-pounding moments caught on camera.
An out-of-control BMW on the highway speeding at nearly 100 miles per hour Monday. New dashcam video from Florida Highway Patrol shows officers tapping Joseph Cooper's SUV before it comes to a stop on I-95 north of Vero Beach. Cooper told police the accelerator was stuck for the white-knuckle northbound drive through multiple counties.
We haven't seen any cases of actual stuck accelerator pedals, mechanical functions or mechanical malfunctions.
Jonathan Ortiz from Foreign Affairs Autos in West Palm Beach says a stuck accelerator is uncommon, but not unheard of. Ortiz says objects like cell phones can get lodged under a gas pedal.
I've seen cases where items fall down and get stuck either under the pedal, causing the car to be stuck accelerator.
On the phone with state police, an operator tried to offer Cooper solutions like forcing the car into neutral.
Have you tried the emergency brake?
Yeah, ma'am, I'm not pulling that at no 100 miles an hour, ma'am. I'm sorry.
When Cooper reached Indian River County, troopers flattened his tires, but he kept going on just rims until the SUV finally came to a stop with this pit maneuver.
That was Whitney Burbank reporting. We'll be right back.
First Alert Weather is sponsored in part by CMI Air Conditioning and Electrical.
It's the big price drop at Mattress Firm. For the first time ever, we've dropped the price of a king to a queen and the price of a queen to a twin across every brand. Your budget stretches further at Mattress Firm.
Lease the Infiniti Q50 for $289 a month. Visit your local Infiniti retailer.
Over 1 million Floridians petitioned to put Amendment 3 on this November's ballot. Amendment 3 will put voters, not politicians, in charge of casino gambling in Florida. And that's got Tallahassee politicians and lobbyists scrambling for gambling. They're trying desperately to expand gambling now, before voters have their say. Tell Tallahassee politicians, on gambling, let the voters decide. Leave it be until Amendment 3.
$122,000.
$350,000. $1.4 million. At Steiger is Going Green, we know money matters.
Because your health matters.
Your car matters. Getting justice matters.
Your family matters.
It all matters. Money doesn't solve everything, but it can make all the difference when you've been injured. Money matters.
Money matters.
How much can Steiger, Isco, and Green get you? 800-561-1111.
AutoBuy, America's #1 Google-rated car buying company, makes it easy to sell your quality used vehicle. Bring your quality used vehicle to any AutoBuy location for our signature 20-minute offer to buy. Once accepted, you'll leave with money in hand. It's that easy. Over 100,000 people have visited AutoBuy, and we've purchased over $1 billion in vehicles. Don't sell your quality used vehicle to anyone. Visit AutoBuy and get the max. AutoBuy. WePayTheMax.com.
It's the big price drop at Mattress Firm. For the first time ever, we've dropped the price of a king to a queen and the price of a queen to a twin across every brand. Your budget stretches further at Mattress Firm.
The time now, 11:29. Get out your lottery tickets. Here's a look at tonight's winning numbers. You're watching WPBF 25 News.
WPBF 25 Beach and Boating Forecast, sponsored by